Kingdom or even Canada uproot his entire life for a small landlocked Central European country with a notoriously difficult language? The answer begins with a problem many men in Western society report feeling. In the West, while individuals have unprecedented freedom and choice, this has led to a sense of confusion and dissatisfaction for many. The social scripts that once guided dating and family formations have largely disappeared. Dating has increasingly become gamified, managed by algorithms on apps designed for user engagements rather than the long term partnerships. Relationships are often perceived as temporary and conditional, usually out of convenience. The ideal building of a life together through shared sacrifices has, uh, in some circles, been replaced by a culture of this possibility where relationships are discarded if they're not immediately perceived as fulfilling. And ironically, 70 to 90% of women are the ones that are doing the discarding. 10 to 30% of men might walk away from a relationship, but they typically walk away for the same reason. They are not being respected and valued by their woman, and ultimately also being cheated on. But a man doesn't have to cheat on his woman for her to leave. He doesn't have to devalue her in any way for her to leave. She can leave because what she thought she had, she realizes she doesn't have. That's it. That's all it takes for her to walk out the door. He could be doing the best he can, but if he was overstating his financial availability for her entertainment, and then when they lock in on the relationship, she comes to find out that he does not have as much resource as she thought, the relationship ends up down a rocky path. Not to say that women are gold diggers by nature, but the fundamental respect is that as a man, if you're peacocking with your resources, meaning that you're showing off for the other person with your resources, you're spending more than you have to impress the other person. And if they get used to that, they're going to expect that to be the standard that they're going to be in a relationship. Once you start whittling down from that in your relationship, the relationship is going to be perceived as on a decline. Some people that are tied to finance are going to believe that there's less love in a relationship because there's less gifts. There's less love in a relationship because there's less time and attention because more effort has to be put into work to replace the money that was spent. And they're going to see a definitive change in a relationship, but they're not going to understand why. Now, most of the younger generation is coming from an unrealistic expectation that it is the man's job to impress the woman, and while the woman and women are not paying attention to the values of the men. And that lack of observation, you're not getting a man for his character, you're not getting him for his decision making skills, you're not getting him for his ability to protect or provide security to you. You're getting him for the night on the town, the vacations, the trips around the world, the expensive gifts, the expensive cars, all of this other stuff. His ability to subsidize your standard of living without you having any responsibilities to the man. And this is not how you build a long term successful relationship, specifically because if you are going from check to check, you get a man that makes twice as much money than you, and now y'all are collectively spending three times more money. You might have went from a $40,000 a year woman dating an $80,000 a year man having a $120,000 a year income to now living a $100,000 a year lifestyle or a $125,000 a year lifestyle, where you barely have enough money to cover emergencies. You're still living check to check. You just living check to check with a nice car and a nice house. and a nice cell phone, right? I've talked to you guys about this plenty of times on the show. Steven says all reasons why I will never financially. Look, I'm with you, bro. I'm with you. I am not on that anymore. I'm not on that anymore. I'm looking at the fact that if two people can get together, regardless of what their income level is at, and they can live off of one income and reinvest the other income 100% of the time into a high interest brokerage account, no matter where you're at. If you both are making 30,000 and y'all can live under a $30,000 a year income and you're putting away 30,000 a year, which means you're ultimately living at 50% of your combined income, the other 50% being reinvested into a brokerage account, you're able to draw back $300,000 worth of principal inside of 10 years plus interest. And if your interest is hitting you at almost 20%, let's say that after taxes, your interest is hitting you at 15%. You've got to understand that for every $100,000 that's up there, that's 15 extra $1,000. So $300,000 in 10 years is $45,000 a year paying out to you plus more. Because you understand that if you're capitalizing this over the course of 10 years, you're likely to be something closer to 400, maybe $500,000 in 10 years. But you're making 45,000 a year. You're both working. You're both making 30K. You've got an extra brokerage account giving you 45K. By the time you reach that 10-year mark, y'all can take your brokerage account and one income, put it together and throw it in there. Now you're throwing 70K into this brokerage account, which also means that by the time you reach the 20-year mark, y'all are crossing over $1 million a year, where you would likely be making about $90,000, $98,000 a year. If y'all are married, $97,400 of that is not going to be taxed if they're in the correct stocks covered under the tax exemption for a married couple. Likewise, though, as individuals, if y'all are just dating one another, each one of y'all as a single might get $34,000. But if one of y'all is head of household, you get $64,000. And if you put that together, it's still about $97,000, $98,000 of income that's coming in that is not necessarily taxed. Then, then, then if you're bringing in 90 something $1,000 a year and you're able to throw away $30,000 of it towards taxation, and you're still, and that's at 30% or more, and then you're getting that extra $60,000 a year that's coming in from your brokerage account. You Each one of you was making 30,000 a year when y'all met. Your brokerage account is paying you $30,000 a year 20 years after y'all met. Y'all can say fuck this job and maintain the same standard of living. Matter of fact, you can upgrade your standard of living, go from 30,000 a year to 45,000 a year with 15,000 a year left over to do whatever it is that you need to do, whether it is reinvested into the brokerage account in order to increase your principal or travel the world with. If you own your own house, you don't have that many expenses. You're now capable of taking what would have been the rent money to now travel the world. But all it takes is for you to find the right person and say, you know what, this person's got the right common sense. This person's got the right budgeting strategy. This person's got the right financial skills that I need to make that $1 million lifestyle so that I can travel the world first class and be able to enjoy life and still have my house in America and not be broke and not have to work. And my partner doesn't have to work either. That's the biggest part of that, because a selfish person would say, "Oh, well, I'm going to retire and let him take care of me for the rest of my life." But a selfless person would say, "Let's do this where we can both quit our jobs and spend the rest of our life enjoying time with each other." Right? Now, Western culture, women don't have that mentality. A lot of the women, especially the broke ones, are on the struggle. And I respect that. They're on the struggle, so they're looking for a subsidy. I respect that. But that subsidy comes at a cost. The women are not willing to pay that cost. And that puts the men in a position where the men are looking for the women that are willing to contribute and reciprocate the way the men are obligated to perform. So for some men, this is a huge, huge, profound issue. The traditional masculinity, which offered a clear role as a provider and protector to men, or as men for women, is now often viewed with suspicion. The desire to lead and provide for family can be misconstrued now. And I'm going to say that again. The desire to lead and provide for family can be misconstrued now as a desire for control. And that's one of the reasons why women do not concede to the man's masculinity requirements, because women do not want to be controlled. But you cannot be protected if you're not willing to listen. You cannot be provided for if you're wasting all of the money. You cannot grow with someone if you don't want to cooperate with that person, right? So men report receiving conflicting societal messages to be vulnerable, but also to be strong. And with every shifting expectation that comes with that. So for these men, the dream of a traditional family, a committed partner, children, a stable home can feel like an unattainable fantasy. In a culture that often celebrates radical independence, the desire for an independent family unit can feel like an act of rebellion. This analysis is not about assigning blame or romanticizing a past with its own significant problems. It is about recognizing a fundamental human need for connection, legacy, and a stable environment for the next generation. Now, when it comes down to that observation of legacy, a lot of women recognize that they bring to the table their capabilities to reproduce. And that's what makes them so valuable. But these are the same women, not all women, but these are the same women that also object to childbirth. They prefer abortion and they prefer contraceptives and everything to that effect because they don't want the responsibility, not because the man isn't willing to take care of the child. And then the women, if they bear the child, will fight the man to keep the child so that they can throw the man on child support for the child and then justify that by saying he helped create the child, so he should pay for the child. But if you can't afford the child, give the child to the daddy. Let daddy take care of the child. If daddy ain't got time for the child and daddy's got to pay for a babysitter, then daddy should be able to pay you for taking care of his child on his behalf. But if daddy's got the time to take care of the child and daddy can work this out, at the end of the day, you should be able to put your efforts into giving him his kid. Let him take care of the child when he's got it. You take care of the child when you got it. You want him to spend more money on the child, put the child in his possession more often. He has the responsibility to take care of the child because whatever the child needs is going to be bought by whoever's got the child at the time. Treat it like the first date. Whoever asks pays. Whoever has a child pays. Plain and simple. Special shout out for Marcus Travis. He says, my wife and I live on Social Security disability, but we make it work with family. And see, it's harder to do with Social Security disability because you can only have $2,000 a person. And sometimes they let you run it up to like $3,000 when you're married. But they got to spend every dollar that they get, and they're not supposed to have too much money on top of that. But whatever they got going on, they're supposed to work together and make that work. And Social Security disability, because it SSDI offers a lot more money than SSI. SSDI, coming off of your work credits, can potentially pay you up to 2,000 or more dollars per month per person, where you now making like 4 grand a month. But SSI is only going to give you about a grand a person. That's all you're getting. So you get like 12 grand a year or less. That's all you're getting. And to go live in the Philippines, you need 24 grand a year per person. So it's not enough. You know what I mean? So when you got families that are 45,000 a person and they still broke, you got to ask yourself what the fuck is going on, because two people at 45,000 a year, where both of them would be considered poor, uh, if they were individual, that's 90,000 when they come together. Which also means that with the median stable housing being around 68,000, they should still have like 30 grand left, which means her hair, her nails, and all that stuff can still get done, and they can still put 30 grand aside a year between two people making 45,000 a year. You're making 65,000 at a Wendy's. 65,000 at a McDonald's, 75,000 at a Waffle House on night shift. I don't understand why you're not making enough money with two working class people, because you got some working class jobs that are paying like 1,700 a week. 79,000. It's the working class is now at about $79,000 a year, which is like 1,700 a week. And for anybody making less than that, you're poor. And two people can't come together and make 100,000 a year, but these females want to do it to be $100,000 out the gate. Michael said women need a man in order to have a baby. They do, and they need a man in order to have a subsidy, and they need a they need a man to lift the heavy couch. They need a man to build stuff. They need a man to clean gutters. They need oh, every single time they're living beyond their means. Every single time, the couple itself, not just the women, the couple themselves is living above their means. And typically, in the egalitarian lifestyle we have right now, we've got um the 50-50 idea where she pays half and he pays half. But then she takes her money and spends it on her. And then so that he can show that he cares about her, he takes whatever's left over and spends it on her as well. So it is not 50-50, because after they split the bills, he's buying her gifts and taking her out to nice places to show that he cares. He's still spending extra money on her. So whatever she put on the bills is being reimbursed through gifts and activities and events and stuff. It's not 50-50. It's like 25-70. Or and the other five is like, where the fuck did that go? A 70-30, something like that. 25-75. It's not equal. Women don't agree with that a lot of the times, but I've actually talked to a lot of couples about it, and I'm like, look, if you think about it, how often does the man pay? More often than not. And then how often does he buy you gifts on top of that? More often than not. How many times do you pay for him? Very rarely. How often do you buy him stuff? Very rarely. And then if you buy him something, it's with his money. So yeah, he got a gift that he paid for. If you charge it to his credit card, you're not doing anything for him. You're just helping him get it for himself. It's not. It's supposed to be the thought that counts. But I mean, a woman is not going to say that a man's going to take her $100,000 credit card and buy her a new car with her credit card, and then give her a new car and say, "Ooh, honey." No, she's gonna be pissed off at that. Fuck you mean you spending my money like that? You know what I mean? So we've got to recognize that there's a whole nother dynamic here that leads men to go into other countries to find themselves uh looking for another partner. When men feel this need cannot be met in their own home country, they begin to explore alternatives all over the world. And that's why every Wednesday we talk about a different search in a different country. And this search is going to lead them to researching countries that are not just passively allowing traditional values to exist, like the ones that are Western forward thinking, but instead actively promoting it. And in this context, uh, one name repeatedly emerges: Hungary. They discover articles and videos discussing its pro family government and its conservative culture, and a society that appears to value principles that they thought were gone. At least it's not existent in America. The concept of a nation investing its resources to strengthen the family is a powerful draw. It's skeptical but intrigued. Men will see Hungary as a potential answer to the problems that they perceive at home, the ones that apparently we can't fix with our own efforts and motivations. So moving to Hungary is not a simple relocation. It is an immersion into a culture that presents significant hurdles for foreigners. And the initial months often serve as a test of commitment when they go out there to see what's going on, a period that can be described as the Hungarian gauntlet, which forces the question: how badly do you want this? Now, I can tell you, oh, Michael, real quick, before we go further into this, yesterday you talked to me about getting that 62 unit apartment complex. I did some digging. You already know I've got a response to that. Statistics show that a 62 unit apartment complex typically range between 12 million and 25 plus million dollars. Yes, it does generate $120,000 a month worth of revenue, but if you put all of the money on the house, it would take you about 22 to 35 years to pay off the property. However, if you were taking 50% or more of that money and putting it towards covering the overhead, paying yourself, it would likely take you closer to 40 or 50 years to pay off that property. Now, if you were to take that property and utilize investor interest where they invested into the property, paid off your mortgage, and now you just owe your investors percentages of your the shares of that particular apartment complex would be going out to all of the investors, and then you would only have what's left over after the the payout after all the debts have been paid. Now, the issue that you have here is in order to get that 12 million to 25 plus million dollar property, you're going to need about 10 to 20% down, roughly, which is likely going to be anywhere between $3 and $6 million to put down on a property between 12 and $25 million. Now, as we discussed yesterday, you're not going to be able to walk into a deal with an IOU for $15 million. It's just not going to work. Somebody's going to have to put up the capital. If you have bad credit, if you have a bad payment history, if you have a low credit score, you're not likely to get pulled into a deal like this. You would have to have a good references somewhere. You're going to need either a really good credit score. You're going to need some collateral. What Wolfman, who was here yesterday, had 30 properties under his name allegedly, and with 30 properties under his name, um, between 200 and $500,000 of property, 30 properties being leveraged at 50% would likely give him the $6 million he needs to get that $13 million property or more. Right now, that would mean that all of his properties and that 62 unit complex would all be leveraged at the same time on one deal where he would be the financial backer and then everybody else would be paying him to cover the spread. Right now, likely with all of the tenants, the maintenance operation, blah, 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 you would likely still be running a 35 or 40-year debt, but it would be backed by or leveraged by assets that you already owned. You would not be able to be a roommate in your parents' house and go from being a roommate in your parents' house, living from paycheck to paycheck, to stepping into a 62 unit apartment complex. So that redefines what we were talking about yesterday when I told you that it is not easier to get into an apartment complex situation. It is easier to get into a single family home, but it is possible to find a duplex and it is possible to find you a fourplex in the right area, especially if you're going to take the out of pocket cost to renovate certain areas of the facility that is not quite up to standard yet. Now, can you expand two apartment complexes? Of course you can, but that would require you to first and foremost um, build yourself up some level of assets. So you would have to put some money towards getting your apartment complex, or well, getting your housing together first. Right. So FX said Hungarian language is not easy to learn. No, it's definitely not. A duplex would work, but if you started with a duplex and then you a duplex or a fourplex, and then you would expand to multiple duplexes or multiple fourplexes, then after you've paid down the debts of acquiring these particular properties, then you can leverage all of those properties to get an apartment complex. And as you pay down the debt and expand the equity, you can leverage the equity, home equity loans to or home lines of credit to invest into other properties and expand that way. And as long as you're expanding, you're always drowning in debt, but your business is the one that's drowning in debt, not your personal credit. So I just wanted to cover that spread for you from yesterday because, yeah, you would ideally make a little bit more money on apartment complexes, but apartment complexes are not seemingly better for the startup person. It is better for the person that's already financially established, that already has developed some assets, that has already bought and sold or rented out a large quantity of properties, and they have built a habit of finding a good deal and being able to invest in that good deal and managing the debt and leveraging the assets to gain more assets that are capital pay. So I just wanted to make sure that we talked about that real quick. Um, he said, "Is investing in REITs better than handling your own real estate?" Okay, so real estate investment trusts do not pay capital taxes. They offset the capital taxes to the shareholders. So you're not going to receive the tax credit for buy and holds the way you would if you were getting something that wasn't a REIT. So you're going to be paying normal taxes on it, which is why I was telling you, if you have like a REIT dominant portfolio that's running like 20% interest, after the government takes a 30% out of your 20%, you're likely sitting at around 17%, but it's still way more than the 10% before taxes and 7% after taxes of the S&P 500. It's actually double. Now, if you're putting a lot of your money into real estate investment trust or ETFs related to real estate investment trust, and you utilize the real estate investment trust that I have been showing you that usually scrolls across the bottom of the screen and diversify your portfolio, then yeah, it is way easier to put all of your money towards building that up than it is for you to juggle your own building of real estate investment opportunity, because you have to buy $1 million property and be paying for it for 20 years. And that means that you have to have $300,000 to buy that $1 million property in order for you to say that you're getting like $40,000, $50,000 a year off of that property for your own personal paycheck. Right now, likewise, if you needed $300,000 to buy a real estate property that's going to generate you a large quantity of revenue, think about the fact that that $300,000 at almost 20% interest is going to be giving you what? $60,000. So the income that you would be getting from building your own real estate properties would be almost the same income before taxes that you'll be getting off of a real estate investment trust. So if you wanted to automate life, turn off your brain, and not be fiscally responsible for all of the managing of properties, then yes, you can go straight into real estate investment trust, put all of your extra money into that 30, 40, $50,000 at a time, and you could build it up because you don't have to do anything but put your money up and let them do what they do with their stuff. That's one of the things about having your money work for you. You don't have to talk to the tenants, do repairs. You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to sell anything. You don't have to like Stewie, where's my money? Or none of like that. You don't have to do evictions. You don't have to do legal cases. You don't have to put lawyers on retainer. You just put your money up and just wait for something to happen, right? And with real estate investment trust, a lot of the ones that I have on the show actually pay you every month. These ones here, majority of them pay you every month, if not once a quarter. And a lot of the ones that I've been showing you, like Ellington, Orchid Island, AGNC, um, Main Street Capital. A lot of these they're every month they're paying. So you start putting your money up, you start getting money back every month, and you can do a buy and hold. And ironically, with all the shit that happened this past week with the tariffs, the REITs were not impacted by that. All of the stuff that happened with the AI, the REITs were not impacted by that. They were impacted by the interest cut in December, but they're not impacted by the market switch with Bitcoin, which is why I tell you guys to diversify your portfolios, right? So I just thought, Michael, I wanted to put that out there real quick. Now back to our main talk, because today we're supposed to be talking about Hungary. And make sure that you guys like and subscribe, because we got a lot of information that we give you guys every week, every day of the week, actually, because we're here every night of the week. So make sure that you guys not only like and subscribe, but also hit that notification button. Now, the first and most significant barrier that we're going to have with being in Hungary is going to be the language, just like FX Trader said. But Hungarian is not an Indo-European language, and it's consistently ranked as one of the most difficult for English speakers to learn. So while English is often sufficient in central Budapest, stepping outside this bubble into a government office, a local market, or a small town renders one effectively illiterate and mute. You can get some translation apps and wear those earbuds that helps translate, where you can understand what they're saying to you, but it's kind of hard for you to talk to them without them having the same software. Remember Star Trek, where you hit the button on the chest and then everybody starts talking the same language? You got to figure something out in order to make that happen, right? And this is going to be more than an inconvenience. It is a systemic shock that strips away the ability to communicate effectively in daily life. And the language barrier is the primary filter for genuine integration. So if you're trying to find the right person, you're not going to be able to do so if y'all don't have communication between one another. If the language barrier is so thick that you're now doing charades in order to deliver a message with one another, you're not likely to be able to find the type of connection that you would be if they at least understood some of what you were saying, right? AI is translating pretty well already. Yes, for the most part. So here's the thing. You've got your apps on your cell phone, which can only go so far. And the problem that you have with that is that you have to have your translation apps open and ready for the other person. Then if you're passing your cell phone back and forth to communicate with one another, if you've got an iPhone or a Galaxy, you've got a $1,500 $2,000 cell phone. You're putting this phone in the hands of a person that doesn't speak your language so that they can talk into your phone, right? That takes an area of trust with a stranger. Now, the other dynamic that we have with this is that you're also going to have the opportunity with the wireless headphones that some people use. Like I've got some on right now, the wireless headphones. Now, uh, outside of sanitation concerns, you have to convince them to put the headphones on for you guys to communicate with one another. If you're going to bring two sets, one for you and one for the other person, because you know that nobody's going to understand what you're saying, you have to be able to trust them enough to provide them with this equipment so that they can communicate with you and then get it back from them when the conversation is over. It is doable, but right now, uh, the lack of natural translation causes a complication and extreme inconvenience that some people do not have the patience for to be able to translate. You got glasses out there that are something like mine that actually can translate and put the stuff up in text in front of your face. The problem that you have with that is, though, is that it's one directional. I can translate what you said, so I know what you're saying, but I can't even speak your language, so you can't translate what I said. So it's not so much the hard part of I don't know what other people are telling me. The mute part is that I don't have the ability to tell them what they need to know to do what I need them to do. That's the part of the language barrier that makes it difficult for you to function. And since not everybody is walking around with translation headphones on, not everybody has got somebody that's going to actually translate for them. So that's kind of the issue. Use a Hungarian girl as a translator. That's a fantastic idea, but you got to find one that understands your language. That's going to be the biggest dynamic in communication is meeting a woman that understands English in a country where English isn't widely spoken. When they learn English to come to America, they know your language, and that's fine. But when you're going to their country and they're not readily learning language like that, it's not always a thing. But then there's a second challenge that's out there, which is navigating the cultural coconut shell. This analogy contrasts peaches, like Americans who are often friendly and open externally, but private internally, with coconuts, like Hungarians, who can be perceived as hard and reserved on the outside. So this is the other issue that we have is that if you come to America, like while we are social butterflies when we're outside of our houses, as long as you're not digging into the stuff that we don't want you to know about, once it comes down to you getting into another person's personal life in America, we are more than reserved. We don't want you to know what's going on behind closed doors, if this situation is, uh, especially if this situation is um, not in order if our situation is in chaos. We don't want people to know. You can't have intimacy with an app. That's a chore if you cast me. Bro, there is no intimacy with apps. Apps are driven, and I've done like 4 shows on this already. Apps are driven for interaction, traction. That's it. The app is not designed for you to find somebody and get off the app. The app is designed for you to maintain long term communication with that person. It has absolutely nothing to do with you sticking with that person, getting off the app, meeting in person, building a life together, anything to that effect. And that's one of the issues that dating apps, you can find somebody, but dating apps are a challenge for that reason because you're not getting on that app and actually succeeding with finding the right person on a regular basis. There are people that do succeed though. There is a decent enough success rate. Yeah, 1988 coming to America, and then Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall. Yeah, so uh, there is a decent enough success rate that gives the ability to advertise dating online. But the problem is that there's more failure than success with dating online. So communicating in person is something that you're going to need. Interacting in person is going to be something that you're going to need. It is harder to put yourself in a position of success when you're not able to communicate with the other person. And while Americans are forthcoming with information with strangers, Hungarians are not. So if you don't know their language, they're less likely to want to sit there and help you figure it out. An American will help you figure out the language and not and be late because they're helping you figure out their language. But non-Americans don't always have that scenario. So the initial interactions with Hungarians can be focusing uh, uh, for or very confusing for Western culture while they're focusing on getting stuff done. Oh man, language barrier apps are an extreme chore. Language barrier language barrier apps are an extreme chore. The translator types they suck. It sucks. It sucks. It is not always a direct translation. And when you don't have supporting internet, it doesn't translate. That's when you're stuck. You're not able to respond. You know what I mean? Then they feel like you didn't give a shit. You ghosted them, but you didn't ghost them. You just don't know what they said. It becomes so frustrating that you pull away from it. Teach you all the bad words first, but that doesn't help you find a girlfriend. It doesn't help you find a wife. It doesn't help you find a job. It doesn't help you find your hotel room. It doesn't help you figure out where to go to get on a plane to get out of the country. None of that stuff. You know what I mean? Now, the casual, smiley customer service is common in America, and that is going to be replaced by a blunt efficiency, right? So small talk is not cultural norms in Hungary, and general seriousness can be mistaken for coldness just because they're just serious about their shit. This forces newcomers to shed their need for consent and social validation, as trust and friendship are earned through consistency because it's not you don't people give trust first and then your consistency in maintaining the trust that they give you earns your ability to continue being trusted and then you have the sincerity. It's not just freely given to people who disrespect you. In Western culture we call everybody a friend that we don't have beef with. I don't know you like that. You're not my friend. I, Friends are people that I can count on in serious situations. Acquaintances are people that I know. You know, you have locational acquaintances and situational acquaintances, where individuals where you know who these people are, but you only interact with them in certain situations or in certain locations. Outside of that, they don't know you. You don't know them. Y'all don't have a network with one another, right? That doesn't make everybody a friend, you know. And By treating strangers as friends, you then start treating friends as family because you treat your friends better than you treat the people you don't know, but you also treat your friends better than you treat your family. And you don't have room for your family because the family dynamic is supposed to be part of the inner circle. So if your inner circle is people that are not worthy of being in your inner circle, and your outer circle is people that are not worthy of being in your circle at all, you know, we in America have a very unstable social network. We have more people that bleed us dry in our network to say that we got friends than what we have people in our social network that we actually financially benefit from or socially benefit from, where they can point us in a direction of opportunities that'll make us more financially successful. So this is going to be the second filter, often proving to socially challenging individuals, those accustomed to more open and friendly relationships, that you're going to have to deal with a lot more harshness when you go to Hungary. Now, the third and often most frustrating thing that you're going to have when you first hit the ground out there is the challenge of famed Hungarian bureaucracy. Opening a residence permit, getting a bank account, dealing with any government agency is a labyrinth of paperwork and very unclear instructions, moving at what may be described as a glacial pace, not just a snail's pace, like a glacier. The system often requires a translator and a lawyer, or extraordinary persistence. It functions as a significant test of one's commitment, weeding out casual visitors from those serious about establishing a life in Hungary. So these three challenges, these are the language, the culture, and the bureaucracies that act as a crucible. They burn away preconceived notions and forced adaptations and reliance before you can even get settled in. It is by navigating this gauntlet that individuals begin to see the deeper rewards, because beyond the reserved exterior lies a deep well of warmth and loyalty. And the political slogans about family are revealed to the woven, and you're going to find that in the very fabric of the daily life there, supported by concrete government policies, not the fundamentally fickle that we have here in the United States. The agitation is the price of admission to the world that these men are looking for, right? So after navigating the initial challenges, the driving force behind Hungary's cultural environment becomes more clear. And in this deliberate atmosphere, a top down government strategy makes the family the central pillar of the nation. Special shout out to Nicole, Detroit, Michigan, in the house. So this is not going to be a mere rhetoric. It is a complex and ambitious system of financial incentives and laws. So since 2010, the government has explicitly stated its future relies on the strength of Hungarian families rather than on mass immigration. So the policies themselves transform the idea of a pro family culture into a tangible reality. First, there is the home creation program. It's a CSOK plus Z. It's a lot. This is a state subsidized loan for a married couple of up to 50 million fortnight, which is approximately 135,000 US dollars, at a fixed interest rate of 3%, which is lower than buying a house in America. As couples have children, the government forgives a portion of the loan principal. which is about 10 million fortnight for the second child, and another 10 million fortnight for the third child. Homes purchased with this program are also exempt from property transfer tax. Next are the tax exemptions for the mothers. A mother with three or more children is exempt from personal income tax for life. So abortion women in America would not function well in Hungary, but the 80s, babies having babies where you had three kids by the time you was 19, this would work for you. As of 2026, this also applies to mothers under 30 with one child and mothers under 40 with two children. So this means a qualifying mother who works can take home her entire gross salary without the standard 15% income tax, which is less than what we pay. And that's something else. Providing families with significant financial freedoms, freedoms that we can't find in our current budget. The support system includes an entire ecosystem of benefits. They have the baby expecting loan, where young married couples can obtain a large interest free loan. Repayment is paused for 3 years after the first child, one third is forgiven after the second child, and the entire loan is forgiven after the third child. So note, you had $135,000 given to you just for getting married, where pretty much all the money is forgiven if you have three kids. And then you have yet another loan that is interest free and put on hold for 3 years after the first child. And if you have three kids within that first 3 years, it's completely forgiven. That's two loans 100% forgiven just by dropping three kids, just by getting married and dropping three kids. Tax free house, tax free mom. So the only person paying taxes out the whole property is dad, right? Family tax benefits. Beyond the mother's exemption, general tax allowance reduces the family's taxable income based on the number of children. So, with this allowance having been significantly increased since 2025, some of these benefits are going to also see quite a few restrictions for the non citizen. So, all of the citizens, all of the people who got citizenship there, they rocking a house. So, if a man goes and his wife is a native and she drops three kids, all of this stuff goes to her, houses and all. All of these exemptions, all of these credits go to her, right? There's other supports. The system also includes generous maternal leave, which we don't see in America. You got till your next day at work. You might get 12 weeks unpaid leave and we'll hold your position, but we got to work you back onto the schedule. After that, you just out. You better use your vacation time and your PTO time and some of your sick days. After that, you out, right? You got to find your new job. The government has child care support instead of just taxing dad. Then they have extra paid vacations for the parents and even subsidies for large families to purchase a bigger vehicle. When has America ever given you a subsidy so that y'all could buy a bigger vehicle to put the kids in? This is motivation now. This comprehensive system costing the country over 5% of its GDP has a measurable impact, contributing to a significant rise in marriage rates and a fall in abortion rates since 2010. Completely opposite behavior pattern than what we have in America. So while many of these benefits are tied to citizenship or long-term residency, their effects can shape the entire culture. So when a government invests billions to reward marriage and childbirth, it sends a powerful societal message that influences dating norms, life goals, and the public perception of family, which I don't know why we haven't incorporated some of this into our society. The Hungarian wife sounds better and better. I'm not kidding, bro. because they're going to be driven to find a husband, get married, and have 3 kids. That's going to be in the core behavior pattern. Because and people are going to say, no, that's not how it works. Think about it like this: in America, people that are on SSI and disability try not to break the requirements. You don't want to be sitting on too much money because you don't want to get canceled. You don't want to make too much money because you don't want to get canceled. People that are on food stamps do what it takes to qualify for the food stamps. They don't make too much money so that they get food stamps, but they make enough money to be on food stamps. The WIC, the however many children that they have, they want to make sure that they have custody of the children long enough to be able to identify that they qualify for the WIC and Section 8 and all this other stuff. Same mentality, same behavior pattern. If you got to be broke to qualify, you want to keep yourself broke so that you qualify so that you don't have to work hard to get the money that you're getting for free from the government, right? Now, take that American behavior pattern and put it in Hungary. Societally, you're guaranteed tax exemptions, you're guaranteed loans that are deferred, then with no interest, and then forgiven if you drop 3 kids. So now the mentality is find a dude, marry the guy, and have 3 babies. That's it. That's how you cover the spread. Every incentive that's coming from the Hungarian government says that you don't pay anything back after your 3rd child. I'm aiming for 4. That way they don't get confused. Right? So while pro-family policies create a supportive culture, it is Hungarians' low cost of living that makes the traditional family model a practical reality for many of men. For individuals arriving from Western cities, the financial relief is substantial. The number that we have for this illustrates the point very, very, very clearly. The overall cost of living in Hungary is approximately 40 to 50% lower than the United States. Rent, approximately expensive in the West, can be up to 70% lower. I'm going to say that again. Rent, 70% lower than in the United States. So, what does that mean? That means that $3,000 a month in America would likely be $900 a month in Hungary. That's what we're talking about right now, right? That's crazy. We struggling in the United States. $5,000 a month in America. What do you think that's going to look like? $1,500 a month in Hungary. So in Budapest, the nation's most expensive city, a one-bedroom apartment in the city center rents for about 600 to 700 euros per month, dropping to about 440 to 525 euros outside the center. And this is a fraction of the cost in cities like Paris or London. The key for many long-term residents is to look beyond the capital. You don't have to be at the heart of everything. You can be on the outskirts and get you a lot cheaper with just as good quality. Historic university towns like Debrecen and Zenk, what is that? Yeah, Zenk or Pest offer a high quality of life at the cost of 20 to 30% lower than Budapest. So 600 euros, close to $700 or $800, right? The second city have a one-bedroom apartment for around 250 to 400 euros, which is closer to $500 or $600. So a sample monthly budget for a single person in a city like uh, Debrecen is illustrative, such as 350 euros for the rent outside the center, $250 for the groceries, utilities $120. This is in euros now, which means that it's really close to that in US dollars. And then transportation around 25 bucks. Leisure, miscellaneous spending, $150, which makes the total monthly expense right around 900 euros. So a family of 4 can live a solid middle class life for under 3,000 euros per month, which is really close to like 33 or $3,400 a month for a family of 4. There ain't too many places in America where a family of four could thrive off of $3,000 a month. They got some. They got a couple states. They got a couple states, but there's not a lot of them. You're not going to New York and California with $3,000 a month for a family of four. You're looking at $250,000 for a family of four in some of those states. I love when Michael does his research. Hungarian's population is declining since 1980, and that is why all the great benefits to attract you there. Yes, what country that has a population issue would be giving you an incentive like this? Since the 1980s, Hungary has been working on their population scenario the same way that over the past 5 or 6 years that all of Asia and Japan and South Korea is all working on China is all working on their population control. America is like the only place that could give two shits. We have so many murders. Our our population control is occurring with our Second Amendment rights. We don't have to worry about having too many people in our country because enough of us do enough dumb things to end the life of enough people that we can't have too many people here. And then whoever doesn't get got by the next guy hops a plane and goes to another country. So we never suffer from overpopulation by design. Yes, we don't have enough housing for the people who are here, but we don't run out of space, right? Because like really the only question is did they die in the house or in the yard? But again, this is a very motivational scenario. When you're looking at places like Japan is cheap to go to, Indonesia is cheap to go to, Vietnam is cheap to go to. Those are cultures that came off of the patriarchy where everybody prioritized the boys. Then the boys carrying the legacy then go to America to be successful, country dominated by women. Not saying that that's wrong, but the population is off kilter because there's more single women there or more divorced women there than there are men there willing to date the women. Then the women are now delaying childbirth until they're 35, almost 40 years old. And over in Asia, the women are smart enough to put their eggs on a shelf. So they're literally 45-year-old having their first child kind of situation because they plan this financially, right? So now you're looking at a 25 or 30-year age gap between the last generation and the next generation. Where right now, some of the oldest generation of the next generation is between 20 and 25 years old, and the youngest of the last generation is like 60, 65 years old. So when those 65 and 70-year olds die over the next 10 years, the oldest person in the country is going to be 45. That's huge. And a lot of us aren't taught how to function until we're 40 everywhere around the world. That is huge, right? So these countries that are dealing with population problems start doing incentives. And I mean, all America has to, well, America just put a stop to abortion. It's like, nah, we'll fix this problem. We ain't giving you nothing, but we're not going to give you abortion. We fixed our population control problem. The women are not going to stop throwing it back, and the men are not going to stop paying for it. So we're just going to stop abortion. We'll have babies all over the place, babies and child support payments, right? Now, with that €3,000 per month, that will include rent for a three-bedroom apartment in a secondary city. Now, this financial reality is transformative for a man aspiring to be a provider because in the West, supporting a family on a single income is often a luxury reserved for the extremely wealthy. In Hungary, a modern Western income from a remote work job or an online business or a large reoccurring deposit from a trust account can provide an entire family with a secure and comfortable lifestyle. This makes the traditional model where one parent can choose to stay home with the children without causing financial distress, where a viable modern option used to not be that. Now, one of the other things that's really good about this is that since all of the taxes is on the mom, all the tax deductions is on the mom. Mom can go to work, dad can stay home with the kids, and dad can have his money coming from America, live in Hungary, stay home with the kids, and mom can go and make all the tax-free money out of the country, and everybody's good. This is team effort situation here, right? Furthermore, Hungary is entrepreneur friendly, boasting the lowest corporate tax rate in the EU at just 9%. Establishing a small company, KFT, is a common pathway for foreigners to secure their residency. This also builds a business from a low cost base. You're able to create the kind of business where, like, whatever it is, mom and pop shop, where y'all can go to work at the restaurant together that he owns, and y'all can do this together. It is a crucial observation to be realistic, though, because local salaries are going to be lower compared to Western standards. So lower class income over there is going to be far lower than lower class income in America, but middle class income over there is going to be almost as much as our lower class incomes in America. So, the optimal strategy for a foreign man is to bring foreign income streams with him to that country, which truly unlocks the potential of a Hungarian lifestyle. So this combination with a culture that celebrates family, government policies that rewards family, and a cost of living that makes it affordable is the trifecta that solves several core anxieties of a modern Western life. Outside of that language situation, you have a whole lot more opportunities. In culture, in Western life, you have that cultural aimlessness and social isolation and the crushing financial pressures of trying to perform social expectations that puts unnecessary pressure on the masculine man's ability to prove his masculinity through his finance, not through his skill set, his decision making skills, his determination or his dedication, just through his finance alone. His ability to have and make resources, his ability to retain resources. And this brings the analysis to the central issue for many men who are making this move: the women and the dating culture. The reality of dating in a country that highly values family is complex but aligns with their goals. Dating in Hungary, particularly outside the Budapest part, is generally viewed as a path towards a serious relationship. So you can go to the party scenes in Budapest and entertain yourselves with the hookup culture. But if you go outside of that, you're looking at long term engagements. The ambiguous, non committal dating style common in the Western culture is less prevalent. Hungarian women, unlike American women, tend to be more direct about their intentions. So if they invest time in a relationship, it is typically because they see long term potential, not because they're enjoying the quantity of money that you're spending as a man. I keep telling women that. I say that on the show, and they're like, "Oh, he don't know what he's talking about. He's misogynistic." No, look, you find better quality men if you pay attention to what he does, not how much he spends. Pay attention to where he's putting his money at, not how much he bought for you. Pay attention to how he balances his budget and takes care of his bills. Make sure y'all like and subscribe. If you pay attention to his goals and his ambitions and how well he achieves those goals and those ambitions, that's how you're able to figure out if this is the man for you. If he's wasteful, yes, you're going to enjoy time with him because you don't have to pay for nothing and you're experiencing a lifestyle that you would not pay for yourself, even if you could afford it, because it's wasteful. But if he's wasteful and you commit to a wasteful man, now you have a hard time trying to improve your social status, your financial status, because every extra dollar you get, he's going to waste. And that will lead to financial fights. Because if you're the kind of woman that's a saver and an investor and you're dating a wasteful man, every time he finds out that there's extra money somewhere, he's going to waste it. Why? Because he was wasting it when you met him. He didn't even know your last name and $1,000 on something stupid. But if he was wise about his ways and you value that, he's not putting unnecessary money into anything, or he's not putting money into anything unnecessary. Either way, at least you know if you build 100 grand with him, it's always going to be there unless he turns it into 200 grand, right? This clarity can be refreshing for men wary of the mixed signals because women in Hungary are going to be serious about their shit. So that could be cold hearted. I tried, buddy. I let you pass the first time. This seriousness stems from the fact that family remains a central life goal for many. Conversations about marriage and children occur very, very early and more naturally, not as a means of applying pressure, but to ensure mutual goals, which I tell women all the time that y'all need to make it clear in the first 2 or 3 days whether or not childbearing is in your future. Based on your current age and the current quantity of children you have, what is your desire to bear 1 to 5 children over the next 1 to 5 years? You need to be able to put that nonsense out there. Well, technically, it's not nonsense. It's a definitive fact because over 60% of men in modern culture is looking to be fathers, whether it is a father for the second or fifth time or father for the first time. They're just like men are being remarried. Uh, Men are trying again to build that family with the right woman and keep all the kids together. Knowing this, if you know that the average man is looking for this dynamic, the average woman should be preparing for that if she wants that type of man. Now, if she doesn't want that type of man, she needs to be clear about it on the first date. I have no interest in children. I don't like children, or at least I tolerate them when they're not mine. Make it clear at the beginning. If that's not what he's into, or won't be a second date. But never, ever, 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 ever convince him to give up on his dream of being a father. The way I would also encourage women to never get in a relationship with a dude that's convincing you to do something you don't want to do. But that brings us back to mutual respect. Now, chivalry is also a notable aspect of the culture, even though it's taken for granted in Western culture. In Hungary, men are generally expected to take the lead in the early stages of dating. Planning outings, meaning that he sets this shit up, but he ain't got to spend a bunch of money on stuff. Opening doors, paying the bill, whatever the bill may be. These are gestures that are not viewed as insults to a woman's independence, but as a sign of respect and are often appreciated, unlike in Norway. Or no, we covered Finland. We covered Finland, and that was the exact opposite in Finland, right? However, it is a significant mistake to assume Hungarian women are going to be 100% submissive. While they are strong and educated as well as resilient with a history that has forged a palpable inner strength, they value their independence and most of them will have a career. But their desire for a traditional family model is not born from weakness, but from a belief in complementary roles that strengthen the family unit. Now, why the fuck don't we have this in the United States? Okay. Public service announcement. Make sure y'all like and subscribe. Michael said, do not take your kids on a first date. Do not order food to go for your kids from the first date. Do not make your man pay for other people's kids on any date. If he got one child with you, he should only be paying for the one child with you. He should not be paying for the other two, three, four children that you got. Show him mutual respect. If he's showing up, he should not have to show up for the whole nation. He should have to show up for the one that's his. All right. Now, if he got five kids with you, he got to get all five of them. But if he only got one with you, you know what I mean? That one is his responsibility. Now, the women in Hungary are seeking reliable partners and teammates, not so much a patriarch. So building trust is going to be paramount, and it will proceed more slowly than many Western culture relationships are accustomed to. Because, I mean, a lot of us beg you for the first date, spend enough money on the first date, at least get a second date if we don't smash on the first date. By the third date, we're definitely smashing. If we spent a lot of money on the first 3 dates, we probably crossed over $1,500 across 3 dates, and now we're smashing. Once we get in there, that's it. If the sex is good, we're in a relationship. If you pay enough money to get to the sex, if the sex is good, you're in a relationship. You're going to continue to pay the extremely high money in America to the woman, and whatever it is that she wants, whatever she needs, consistent sex, relationship, until we've been together so long. Why don't we just get married? And then the man has to pay for the engagement ring. The man has to pay for the wedding reception. The man might have to pay for the honeymoon, and then the man pays for the wife for the rest of his life. But if at any point in time the money stops being as good as it was, or doesn't continue to increase, the woman's out the door. At any point in time, something changes and the sex stops being there, the man is not satisfied. Then the man starts pulling back on his efforts, and when the man starts pulling back on his efforts, the woman up and leaves again. So there's never a dynamic where it's a guarantee. But that's because in Western culture, we're going into this based off of greed. Women are looking for money and men are looking for sex, but women are not paying attention to the qualities and characters of a long-standing relationship, and neither are the men. Steven said, I've heard enough. Sign me up. Michael says she had nine. I don't know too many women that are not from Latin culture that are having 9 kids. African American women used to have the most kids in America back in the day, but not anymore. Or at least that's what I have been led to believe, because you could probably show me a statistic that shows that Caucasian women have had the most children back in the 70s and 80s. But I was thinking in the 80s and 90s, because the largest majority of welfare babies were born in low income communities, and the low income communities were like 80% African Americans. So the largest majority of 5 and 12 kid scenarios were minorities because of the culture that they grew up in. But that was like 80s adults having babies, 90s teenagers having babies, but like 2020, not 2020, 2005 to 2010, it kind of started being like everybody who was poor who could get into the system. Back when Bill Clinton was in office, before he put a stop to the to the free ride and said everybody who's on welfare has to go to school and make something out of themselves. That's when the dynamic started to change. So, as with that coconut analogy from the beginning, one must earn entry into the inner circles of Hungary. So there can be a level of reservation initially, and they do not offer constant validation to you. So trust is going to be built through consistency. So with those women, consistency and reliable actions and sincere interest in their culture is going to be how you're going to lock them in. Now, in America, consistency is how people will show their um their interest in the relationship. Instead of spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on the date, or a few $100s at a time on the date, rearranging your schedule, not necessarily taking a bunch of days off from work, but rearranging your schedule to prioritize this date. Get off of your phone. Stop scrolling through social media. Pay attention to the person that you're on the date with. That shows interest. Consistency, regular communication with them, always continuously making future plans with them, getting them involved in your activities. Where if you're busy, a night out, not even a night out, an afternoon together could be taking care of personal shit, going to pay bills, going to going to the mechanic shop and getting the car fixed. It's like fuck. If I don't have enough time to do both, if you're willing to roll with me, we can put the car in the shop together and go down to the nearest restaurant, have something to eat while the car's in the shop, and then come back and pick up the car and go back to the house or whatever. Consistency, sincerity. Instead of that prom night excuse that I can't go out because I have to wash my hair. It's like, well, since I'm gonna be washing my hair, you could give me a hand with it. You could do a little twist out or something, right? Show that you prioritize the person, not the resources coming from the person. All right. Learning even basic Hungarian phrases demonstrates respect. So, not all those nutty words, Michael. And the commitment to integration into their culture is very important. Setting a man apart from a tourist. So if you just live in a hotel, you're going to be there for 6 months. They're not really going to fuck with that. But if you're buying a house, if you're getting on a 2 year or 4 year mortgage, I mean lease kind of thing, and then you're setting up bank accounts, you're moving your business over there, you're going to be here for a while. You get your gym membership, you're going to some of the local events, you're really incorporating yourself into the social atmosphere. You start being perceived more regularly. If a relationship becomes serious here, an introduction to the family is a major step. So no matter how quickly that happens, I would like for you to meet my family is the second step to permanency in this relationship. The approval of the family is very important and signifies acceptance into the fold, just like Meet the Fockers. So while Budapest has more cosmopolitan dating scenes, the underlying cultural values persist. Outside the capital, though, the traditional mindset is going to be even stronger. Ah, hello, Mr. Nationalist. Why are you talking about my country? Because I can. So I just did an hour and a half discussion about how amazing your country was. So why did you not know that I was covering your country this week? Because I cover a different country every week. And typically we point out a lot of the countries that have all the greatest things that men look for and encourage men to go take a look at some of the best places to be in the world. So if you stumbled across this show because I was talking about how amazing your country is, then like and subscribe because your country made it to the list of some of the greatest countries to go live in. Very affordable, family oriented, and every man's dream. Now, if you disagree, you can by all means give me some information that makes us rethink our position. But I mean, the last hour and a half, I kind of sold a few 100,000 men on going to going to your country and go and check out the culture, right? And we cover a different country every week, so at least 52 countries a year, if not more. We do secondary reviews of the country and do follow-ups if I find out new information about the country that allows us to better integrate ourselves into the culture and find better investment opportunities in the culture as well. Because while there's digital nomad opportunities, there's digital nomad visas, there's business visas, there's long-term visas, student visas, all these other ways that you can get residency, citizenship, and the major goal is widespread positive companionship and positive social interaction, a positive atmosphere, so that you have like a place to grow old in and be happy, not so much stressed out and going from a place to place like a rat on the wheel where you're always chasing. I don't even know what because you're not even chasing success anymore. You're just chasing the next dollar to get you to the next dollar. So we cover this on a regular basis. So I mean, yeah, if you're here, you're late because you're an hour and a half late. We just spent the last hour and a half talking about how awesome Hungary is. So that's your country. I'm putting your country on the map. So, like I said before, make sure that you like and subscribe. Now, I was at that particular scenario about the traditional mindsets being even stronger. So, this is going to be offering more opportunities for men to meet women explicitly seeking to build family rooted values and traditions, which is way better than what we've got going on in America right now. So, the solution men find is not going to be a fantasy, but a real opportunity to date with purpose, meet women who are clear about their desire for family, and build a relationship on a foundation of shared values, which changes the dynamic from being transactional because that's the way our culture is in Western culture right now. It is transactional. You know, her time is leased for his money and his money turns into her time being leased for sex. And that's one of the things that we have. Is everything is transactional in America. We don't agree to it, but that's kind of what we have. And where was I at with that? Here, he said, I just saw this on my page. Well, I popped up on your page because we're kind of spreading around here. We're all over the world right now. If I'm on your For You page, we talk about ways to make, save, and invest money. We talk about how politics negatively impacts our ability to make, save, and invest money. We talk about ways to improve ourselves, relationship topics, improve your ability to negotiate your job, whether it's raises, promotions, retirement, severance packages, working on your 20-year plan. The fundamental core of this show is about helping men make themselves to be higher value men by making better decisions. So make sure that you take the time to like and subscribe because you may pop back up on the show yet again where we're going to be talking about ways for that you can incorporate into your own culture, ways that you can make different decisions than what you used to make so that you can find yourself in a better position even in your own culture, because the information that I'm giving you is not exclusive to the United States. While it is more expensive to live in the United States, the decision making skills are still the same. They're the soft skills of not buying things that you don't need to buy, not investing things that don't turn you a profit, not sacrificing yourself for the sake of somebody else's opinion, and then not wasting unnecessary money on frivolous entertainment when you can be investing that money on your future. There are different ways to invest in offshore opportunities. So if you're in Hungary and you want to invest in American stocks, there's a way to do it. And if you're in America and you want to invest in Hungary stocks, you can do that as well. You know, there's a lot of things that are possible in life, but it requires a different frame of mind. Instead of saying I can't, instead of saying I don't have time, instead of saying that I don't have the money to afford that, we need to start putting together our 20-year plan and utilizing our capabilities to reach that goal by doing the free stuff first, taking time out of our off day to do the time consuming stuff first, build ourselves up to the financially costly things second, work our way into the foundational um, expectations of where we want to see ourselves in 20 years because we're in 2026. By 2046, everybody watching the show on a regular basis should be millionaires. If you take the extra capital that you're not wasting on bullshit and putting it towards your future. If you're here for 20 years on this podcast, you should not be broke no more in 20 years. You should be able to retire out of your job in 20 years. Doesn't mean that you will. It just means that you should be able to. You can run another 30 years, but for the next 30 years that you're working, you're doing it because you feel like it, not because you have to. Right now, the average individual goes to work because they need money for tomorrow. You show up for work today so that your paycheck next week is level. You work this month so that your bills are paid for next. Well, you work this month so that your bills are paid for this month, but you're wrapping up February's work so that you have money to pay your rent for the first. This is what we do, right? But we should be able to design a plan of action so that we can roll out of bed, the money is coming in, the bills are getting paid, and we have money left over without having to do anything because we already set it up. We automated our life's finances, and that's what we focus on the show, is to make sure that you're capable of automating your life's finances. So I'm glad that you were able to stumble across it today. Now, today's analysis has been presented to illuminate a significant cultural and demographic trend that we clearly don't see in Western culture. So remember, guys, if you find any of the information that I give you guys valuable, please make sure that you subscribe and like tonight's show, because doing so not only supports the creation of further analysis, it signals that these conversations are very important to the individuals that clearly enjoy it. Um, Discussion is also encouraged. So for men watching this show, do the trends described in the West resonate with your experience? Or for those that are experiencing the Hungarian culture or other similar cultures, what nuances could be added to this particular type of analysis that would give you a better insight and understanding of exactly what you're looking for? Please share your thoughts in the comments, because as this forms, it will allow us to share and learn from each other. Because the Good Old Boys Club was about a bunch of men with resources and knowledge and network, sharing those resources and knowledge and network with the next generation. You learned how to be part of the 1% from the 1%, the apprenticeship, how to be successful. You learn it from a successful person, right? So that common knowledge that's not all too common in 2025, I am proactively putting forth the effort to make sure that we share that with you guys so that you can put common knowledge that you once didn't know or once forgotten into motion so that you have the capabilities to change your decisions, to apply yourself in other ways, because that is how you're able to do better. Instead of just saying, I can't because I can't think of another way, it's like, shit, I not only changed the questions, I provided you with solutions, which helps you guys find better ways to improve yourselves. He says dating in Hungary is very different than the West. There is no friend zone. Thank you, Lord. There is no random sex. Thank you, Lord. Hungary is not a good place for men who want to get laid fast. Thank you, Lord. It's more traditional. And that is exactly why I was covering today's show. So now we have a native that has reinforced everything I've been telling you guys for the last 2 hours. So this is one of those countries where the women are not systemically raised to be street trash. These are women with quality. These are women with reservation. These are women with conservative behavior patterns. Most of the women in Hungary are not going to have a body count in the 3 digits, where most of the women in America have a 2 digit body count before they're 20. A mid to high level 2 digit body count before they're 20. Trying to compete with men. It's crazy out here. And these Hungarian women are the values that we've been looking for in the Western culture. I found it. And I'm looking for it every country around the world. I'm looking for it. And if we find it, we're covering it on the show. I think next week we're covering Turkey, as a matter of fact. We're going to be talking about what's going on in Turkey. There is always another way. I know y'all heard this old saying at least once in your life. Where there's a will, there's a way. There is always another way. I did it that way because I wanted to, not because there was no other way. When there is no other way, you have run out of options. But you've run out of options because all of the bad choices that you allowed to occur put you in a position where you have no other options to perform. But had you been making different choices along the way, you would have found yourself in a position where you have more options. And we're not trying to find more options with more women. We're trying to find more options to be successful, to have a family, to build a legacy. a reason to build generational wealth. We're not trying to build generational wealth so that when we die, the woman that we left behind can ball out of control for 2 years and then be broke. We're trying to build generational wealth like the Rockefellers, where our great grandkids are still benefiting from our efforts. But that takes life changing decision making. And life changing decision making isn't just grabbing a passport and flying into another country. It is literally changing the way you spend your money, changing the way you invest your money, and changing the way you interact with people, changing the way you value your partner and what you expect your partner to bring to the table. And then women, it really changes the way you want to bring yourself to the table, because the values that men look for, Western culture women don't want to bring that to the relationship. They devalue that expectation, but they expect to get the best from the best without providing the best to the best. It's crazy. So, why are men moving to Hungary for a traditional family? It's not because Hungary is a perfect utopia, but it is damn sure better than what we've got going on in America. The country does have its own economic challenges, a complex political landscape, a culture that can be difficult for outsiders to integrate into. But men are moving there because Hungary offers a powerful and comprehensive solution to a deep seated problem they feel in the West that we would prefer not to continue to experience in the West. It's the complete package. Ideally, it's going to start with the problem of a modern dating culture that feels unfulfilling, and a society where traditional family values are often marginalized or completely misdirected. Oh, hey, we're here every night. We typically start about 2 hours ago, at about 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, which is like 10 o'clock Central Standard Time, probably 15 minutes after the hour. But we're here every night of the week. So hopefully I see you again, brother. Thank you, and you have a good night. Enjoy your day at work. Now, it's going to continue. The improvements of being in Hungary is going to continue with the challenges of the journey, because the gauntlet of the language, because it is not easy to learn, but it is worth it. The bureaucracies that you have to get through, but you have to be patient, and a reserved culture that filters for genuine commitment. Because if you don't have the motivation, nothing worth having is not worth fighting for. A lot of times in Western culture, women want to behave without value and then demand that a man fights to keep less value. But if she was of value, he would not have to fight the world to convince her to stay. She would choose to stay, and he would fight the world to protect her from the dangerous sides of society. No man should be in a position where he is treating his woman, his relationship, like a hardcore match, 24/7. His role as the boyfriend is on the line and up for grabs for the next man. It should never be that way. But that is how the Western culture is designed right now. That all it takes are for you not to put enough up in one billing cycle and you're replaced with another man. The Western culture should not be that way. Women realize this when they're in their late 30s, early 40s, sometimes early 50s. But by that time, it is too late. It is truly too late. Between 18 and 30, typically between 22 and 29, women should be trying to find the right person to lock it down with, not sampling every ride at the fair, right? Because again, if two people with a marginalized income come together and live off of one income and invest the rest, in 20 years, you'd be multimillionaires. If you started that in your 20s, you and your partner in your 40s can retire. And with the average age being above 85, you would have the next 40 years of your life to enjoy each other without having to work. But if you don't start figuring that out until you're 42, your 20-year plan puts you at 65. And now you have to find a person that's willing to tolerate you. And that's not the same. This is going to be another reason why older men are going to date younger women, because an older man can not only get the legacy from the younger woman, but he can get the cooperation from a younger woman that he's not going to get from a middle aged or older woman. Right? Going to Hungary is a process, but it is a very complicated process that is a feature, not a bug, to filter out those that are not dedicated to success. And finally, it's going to deliver a solution built on three sets of pillars. First is going to be the government that actively and financially supports the family with an unmatched system of loans and tax breaks. And second, a cost of living that makes a traditional single income family a practical option for someone with a modest Western income, especially if you're a digital nomad. And then third, it's going to be a dating culture where commitment is the goal and traditional gender roles are respected, not devalued. And a family is seen as an ultimate measure of success, not a burden. Okay, here's an interesting question. Is that I'm 17, almost 18. I'm unemployed, living with my mom. I'm thinking of joining the U.S. Army. What are some advice you have? Well, you're going to be joining the U.S. Army specifically because that's something that you want to do, not because you're trying to escape responsibility. If you're joining the U.S. Army, you have to understand that while you do have benefits from the U.S. Army, you don't typically benefit from them until you get discharged from the U.S. Army. Yes, your funds can be sent to your mom while you're gone away, but you put your life on the line. Like right now, Donald Trump is sending people to Iran, and not everybody's coming back. If in the event at 17, 18 years old, you can find yourself getting into college, even if you started with a community college and transferred into a 4 year institution, you could utilize accessibility to college funds to invest in brokerage accounts that are producing more interest rates than the student loans that you get so that you can defer your student loans until you graduate from college. You're going to put 150%. So if you're doing an undergrad in a community college and getting your associate's degree, that's like 3 years. And then you're going to do your bachelor's degree. That's another 3 years, which is 6 years. And 6 years into college, you can find yourself in a position where at $20,000 a semester with a $10,000 return every semester is $30,000 in your pocket, uh, being deferred for 6 years, where the government guarantees you up to $200,000 before you have to start diving into private loans. You find yourself with the ability to really put yourself into a good position when you get out of college. Your brokerage account will be paying back your student loans and improving your credit score. And you should be in college networking with people so that you can find the kind of job that you're satisfied with, interning during your undergrad so that you've got the years of experience and a bachelor's degree to boot. And then you can get yourself a middle class income, or do like I did when I gave you guys when I gave you guys all of those tips and tricks on how to start up a business and work off of the computer, become a digital nomad, and still have the brokerage account offset your student loans, because at the end of the day, until they make the change, any payments on your student loans are tax deductions. So I mean, you can build wealth over the next 6 years while going to college, establish college credit cards and other such things, which can allow you to work yourself right into owning your own home. If you're renting with your mom and you end up owning a home with your mom, she can help pay the rent, and then you're spending less money because owning a house is cheaper than renting an apartment. You have more space, uh, and it makes more sense. uh, like I tell people on a regular basis, at your current age, you say you're 17, not 18, but you're 17, almost 18. So you're almost there. The ideology would be that you would be trying to figure out where you want to be at in 20 years. And then you want to start doing what it takes to get there. While you're under the financial blanket of your parents, you want to be able to not just take risks that are unnecessary. You want to be able to invest in yourself because your parents will support you investing in yourself. You want to invest in yourself to be successful. So you're not just running to the army so that you can no longer follow the instructions of your parents, because I mean, in the army, you do as you are told. not because it's right, not because there's morals or ethics involved. If they tell you to go and slaughter everybody in the school and everybody in the school is under the age of 10, you were given an order. You got to go follow that order. If they tell you to blow up a hospital, doesn't matter if there's a nursery in there with elderly people. They tell you blow up a hospital, you have to follow instructions. So you're not going to the military so that you can get away from what you might personally believe is tyranny from your parents. You go to the military because that's what you really want to do, right? But if you're not going there for the nobility of, I want to follow instructions from whoever's giving me instructions for the sake of my country, if that's not what you're going there for, you shouldn't go there. I know some people say, well, I'm going there for the GI Bill. I mean, yeah, you can join the reserve, do your 2 year tour, hopefully don't get put into combat, get your GI Bill, and then go to college. Yeah, you can do that. And I'm not saying don't, but just remember that a lot of people that went out there for their GI Bill got recruited, and now they're in Memphis killing people on the sidewalk because they have a cell phone in their hands. You got to really think about where you want to be at in your future, you know, because the National Guard that was on reserve got sent to Tennessee. And those are people who, just like you, decided to enlist and potentially enlisted in order to get the free ride through college, and they enlisted, and now they're out there picking on their neighbor while wearing military fatigues because they're ordered to do so, right? So where do you want to be at in 20 years is what you have to figure out, and then you need to start mapping out a plan on how to get there. You start with the end goal. Where do you want to be at? And it's not a broad spectrum end goal like I just want to be rich. What kind of lifestyle do you want to have? How big is the house going to be? How many people are going to be there? How many of them are going to be your dependents? What kind of way are you planning on generating that wealth? Are you going to be generating it from profits from investments, dividends from investments, or are you going to be doing it from starting up a business? And then are you going to have a brick and mortar business that's going to pay you this way, or are you going to be getting your information or your finances off of the computer? If you're getting it off of the computer, are you trying to settle down in the country that you're in right now, or do you want to settle down in a cheaper country? These are the things that you have to think about right now at 17 years old so that you can decide where you plan on going in life. Does what you want to do with your life require you to get a degree, or does it require you to know somebody who can get you in the door? These are the things that you have to figure out. And then once you understand that, then you start putting forth the steps to get to where you're trying to go. There's never a reason why you're just doing as you're told. You're not just being a second or third generation military brat because you everybody else did it. You must have deliberate determination. You must have a strategic positioning to reach whatever success that you're trying to reach. Because otherwise, no matter how successful you are, you can join the military and go up the ranks to be a colonel, but you're going to be miserable because that's not what you wanted to do with your life. You did it because you were pressured into it. Whether you were pressured into it to avoid other pressure, or you were pressured into it because you were trying to meet the standards of somebody else. You want to do what you're doing because that's what you want to do in life. That's going to be the best advice that I can give you. You know, you must motivate yourself to be successful, but motivate yourself to be the type of successful that you are satisfied with. So if working at your own schedule is what you want to do at, be your own boss so that you don't have to take instructions. If that's what you want to be at, figure out a way to get there. That's going to be my recommendation for you. So, like I said, this isn't about escaping the modern world. It is about um, finding a place where modernity and timelessness and values all can coexist. Oh, I see. You said, should I start investing? Yes, you should have been starting investing. In my membership, we have a lot of information about investing in stocks and bonds and brokerages. Actually, right now, we've got a lot of stocks going across the bottom of the screen. You should have been investing since 8. Um, I just seen that part you were asking about. Should I start investing? You should have been investing. Your parents should be teaching you how to invest before you figure out how to go to college. Before you figure out what a credit score is, you should know how to invest. You should know how to save so that you know how to invest. You should know how to budget so that you're living on 30% of your income so that you have the capabilities to invest, not living from paycheck to paycheck. So yes, the quicker that you can figure those things out, the quicker you can provide yourself with stability so that you're not a dependent. So yeah, I strongly recommend that you do some research and get right in there. Check out our membership because we got a lot of information in our membership. So far, we're rolling out new information every day, at least every week, that's giving you more and more stuff on how to build yourself up and make yourself more successful. And then all of the stocks and ETFs and bonds that we're following that have the highest dividend payout with the lowest cost. We track those on a monthly basis and tell you which ones that have upcoming dividend dates so that we could you can buy in before the dividend date and start experiencing payouts effective immediately. So matter of fact, um, Friday we have most of the stocks are due on Friday. PSCC, Orchid Island, AGNC, AG Management, which is MITT. A lot of these stocks are coming due on Friday. Tomorrow's Thursday, or today is Thursday. Come 9 a.m. And if you're buying into these stocks today before the end of business day, you qualify for the dividend tomorrow, and they're likely going to be paying you the dividend over the weekend because a lot of times PSCC and Orchid Island pays within the first 5 to 7 days. So you start seeing money coming in by the um, first week of March, which is the ultimate encouragement of how to invest. You put your money down and start seeing returns right away. It motivates you to continue to invest. And this is buy and holds because we also do a dividend rotation strategy, but you can buy and hold the stocks and then just keep reinvesting in the stocks because you're getting paid per share, not based on the value. Yeah, we want to build growth stocks, but we also want to get dividends because dividends, you can stop investing in a stock. You don't have to sell the stock and you can just keep all the money that's coming out of the stock. That's the best part about dividends. That's a good retirement plan. Put up, they say that if you wanted to live in the Philippines, you need 24,000 a year. If you're getting about 15% back after taxes, you're going to need about $200,000 to get 30,000 a year. $200,000 in a brokerage account, easy to do. 10,000 a year every year for 20 years is $200,000 plus interest. And 10,000 a year is less than $1,000 a month that you're putting away into a brokerage account, right? And that's you doing it by yourself. And if you think about the 3 dates that you paid for every month, plus hanging out with your homeboys almost every weekend, where you're spending $200 to $300 a weekend, where you're spending almost $1,200 a month, you can build the type of lifestyle that you want within 10 to 20 years. So if you started now at 18, by the time you're 45, your standard of living would be covered by the money that you invested. What do you think about crypto? I think the same thing about all investment opportunities. If you know what you're doing, you can make something out of it. But if you don't know what you're doing, you can lose your money. You're less likely to lose money on blue chip companies that you're buying and holding shares in because those companies have been around for 30 or 40 years. They're paying dividends every month. So you're not taking risks on selling it at the wrong time or buying it at the wrong time. If you buy it before the ex dividend date, you get the dividends. That's the best thing to do for a startup investor because you can continue to add new principal from your paycheck and then take the dividends and reinvest it back in and grow your portfolio faster. For the beginner, that's the best way to go. Cryptocurrency, if you know how to trade with cryptocurrency or if you know how to use trade bots with cryptocurrency, you can get into crypto and you can make money off of crypto. It's possible. I made money off of crypto. You can buy gold and silver and hold it until gold and silver becomes $200,000. But I mean, it's going to be over years. So you're going to be buying that stock or buying that actual physical item, and you're going to be holding it for years in order to see a return on investment. But buying a cash paying, dividend paying stock, you buy it this month, it pays you this month. If you buy it this month, it pays you next month. That's actually a faster turnaround. Um, but then likewise, if you're buying into a brokerage account and investing in a high interest brokerage account, you can take the dividends from the brokerage account and invest it into Bitcoin, where your principal always stays there. And this is going to be the best advice that I could give you. Invest in something that gives you interest so that you can use the interest to invest in volatility. That way your principal is always there. If you get back $10,000 a month off of your brokerage account, that $10,000 a month that goes into your Bitcoin could put you, or cryptocurrency of whatever. If you lose it, you lost interest. You didn't lose the principal. The principal is still there. Yes, you would lose ground from growth because you put it into something and lost, but the opportunity cost of taking your principal and investing it into Bitcoin and then losing it versus taking your principal and investing it into revolving capital that you can then utilize for something else, it is a better opportunity cost to have some high volatility in your portfolio to generate revolving capital that you don't have to work for, and then take that extra capital to invest it in other places to make better deals. Because you can take that money and put it into real estate. You could take that money and put it into precious metals. You could take that money and put it into international travel, starting up businesses in other countries around the world. Because almost every country around the world has a special economic zone, credit of some kind for starting up a real estate business that is focused on low income housing development. So you can, and then if you're an American and you're doing this overseas, you can likely build an international business that's a foreign domestic in every country around the world that you would like to go and live in, and get a residency or citizenship status from each one of those places that ultimately would allow you to get tax deductions from the United States for investing in a startup business in a different country, because the United States applies taxes to all of your international income. So you can actually have your business started up in America as an LLC, convert it to a C corporation, and then take that C corporation to every country around the world. And because you're starting up a business in every country around the world, they will give you a business visa, which gives you like 12 months to 5 years, instead of just a 3 month, 90-day visa. And now you're traveling on purpose. When you're making enough money off of your business to travel, and your business pays for it, that's business travel written off on your taxes. Now you're traveling for free. This is more valuable to you than just, putting on a uniform and following instructions. So I mean, if you figure out where you want to go, that's going to be the best thing for you. Either that's some good advice. Thank you very much. Hey, I'm here for y'all every night of the week. This is what we do. We do this on a regular basis. This is going to be for men who believe that being a provider and a protector is a noble ambition, and men who want a partner who shares the exact same vision. A woman who is both strong and independent, or more so to the magnitude of self sufficient, not so much independent, yet also has the values and unique roles within a family structure that benefit and complement the man's presence. The decision to move to Hungary is going to be a calculated one, driven by the hope of a different possible life. So, what is found in a country that, for all its complexity, is making a bold choice to place the family at its heart and future? I got to tell you, this choice is attracting a specific type of individual. Actually, the core foundation of what is identified as a higher value man, because one who is willing to trade familiar comforts for the chance to build something lasting, meaningful, and traditional, the legacy that can be built on. For a growing number of men, that trade is more than worth the effort. I tell you guys on a regular basis, nothing worth having is not worth fighting for. So, with that being said, ladies, I'm going to tell y'all, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you ladies to make it make sense. So, ladies, please make it make sense. Fellas, I give y'all this information to help y'all become higher value men, because when you find the things that are inside of your control that you do not like, that you want to change, you put forth the effort to change that. These things improve your life. Then you have the capabilities of navigating around the things that you cannot control. And ladies, while I provide y'all this information from a male driven podcast from the male's perspective, you too can benefit from the information and make yourself higher value women. As I explained to Maverick, if you found your 20-year plan, where you want to be at in 20 years, and proactively put forth the efforts to get there, keep your eyes and ears open, looking for the potential in a person to match your goals, where y'all can work together to get there faster. If your goal and their goal is accomplishable together, the two of you can crush on goals faster than individually. Because while I gave you guys a blueprint where y'all can make yourselves $1 million in 20 years, if two people work together and did it, you can make yourself $1 million in 10. Is it what time are you usually on? I live on the Pacific time. Oh, okay. So it is 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, which is ultimately 10 o'clock Central Standard Time. It's typically about when we tee this party off. But a few times out of the week, you might find me start about 15 minutes after the hour. So if you're on Pacific time, that's about 2 or 3 hours ago. So it's probably like 10 or 11 o'clock for you right now. So we would have started 2 hours ago. That's about so if you set your clock and if you like and subscribe to the show, you should see notifications as soon as we go live. If your notifications are turned on, it will tell you that we are live. And we go live every night of the week. However, all of our shows are archived on the YouTube platform. So if in the event that you missed a show for whatever reason, you can just go back and rewatch today's show later in the day when you have time. If you end up going to work and you missed a show, you can always come back and rewatch the show because we're covering different ways to invest on Tuesdays. We're covering different countries to invest and live in on Wednesdays, different ways that politics impacts your ability to make, save, and invest money on Thursdays, and all kinds of ways. Well, that's on Monday, but on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, all kinds of ways to improve your decision making skills. And then on Sunday, it's all the random questions and comments from the fans that are actually appropriate conversations and appropriately structured questions, which helps you guys with personal growth and personal development. Because if you fix your decision making in your personal life, you stop making bad decisions that cost you money, which prevents you from applying pressure to your employment for the capital to cover the decisions that you make, which then allows you to enjoy your job because instead of you forcing raises and promotions and overtime from your employer, which builds resentment when you don't get it, or raising prices on your customers when you work for yourself, you are now satisfied with the income that you're getting and you are making big boss money making moves by redirecting capital that you don't need into places that money makes money for you instead of chasing the dollar. I call it chasing the dragon because you're always going places where money is being offered and doing more than necessary to get a little bit of stuff. You want to switch that from putting in 80% effort to getting 20% capital and switch it to putting in 20% effort to get 80% capital. You want to get more for your money. You understand? And the only way that you're going to be able to accomplish that is if you are putting yourself in a position where you are not making moves out of desperation. The same way everybody sold their stocks over the weekend because they feared what was happening with the tariffs, and then everybody had to buy all their stuff back on Tuesday. So many people lost money on making a bad call over the weekend instead of just waiting it out. And all it took was to wait 48 to 72 hours, and everything leveled off again. So instead of acting on emotion, you have to act on logic and rationale. You have to do your research. You have to back my information with your information. And then whenever you run into a roadblock, talk to a professional. CPAs, tax agents, trust agents, lawyers. Make sure that you cover the spread. But you want to be confident in the actions that you're about to take. And I'm going to tell you this before we go. And I was raised this way that you must first and foremost do what you know is right all the time. But you want to stand up for what you believe and defend that by any means necessary. But you want to accept the consequences of your actions before you perform the action, which requires you to know what the consequences are of your actions before you perform that action. And every decision that you make should never be the ends justify the means. It should specifically be towards achieving your end goal because um, current right now in the moment self gratification impulsive decisions might catastrophically impact your end goal. So I need to make a plan before I start acting. Going with the flow never ends well. It's kind of like chess. You got to think about what is your what is your end goal. Yes, that is true. Yes, that is definitely true. That is probably the best advice that can ever be given to anybody because going with the flow doesn't work because you are responsible for first person accountability. You are responsible for the decisions that you make and you're responsible for the outcome as it impacts the people around you, but you are also responsible for the decisions that are made around you as those outcomes impact you. So while you cannot force somebody to behave a certain way, you are responsible for their decisions while you're in their presence. And if their decisions are negative or perceived to be negative, it is your responsibility to remove yourself from that scenario before that scenario goes bad. You know, people hanging outside the car while you're driving, instead of trying to negotiate them back into the car, you stop the vehicle, get in the car or get out of the car, but don't hang out of the car. Because if you're still driving and they're still hanging out the car, no matter how many times you say get back into the car, somebody loses their head, that is on you because they're being stupid. You ride with friends that are drunk drivers, y'all get into a car crash, you're in a wheelchair for the rest of your life, that is on you. You knew that person was drunk when you got in the car. It doesn't matter if they made a bad decision and was driving drunk. You made a bad decision and allowed them to do it. First person accountability. You go to the store to a friend that steals, you know they steal before they even go to the store. So when you see them start shoving stuff in their clothes, you put yourself in that position. If y'all get caught together, you're going down as an accomplice. If you know that your friends steal, you leave them in the car. But if they go in the store, you stay outside the store because you're not going to be involved in the fallout of that upcoming bad decision. You got friends that do drugs, that's fine. Let them do drugs, but don't have them do drugs around you. First time somebody pulls drugs out of the pocket, that's when you're like, you know what? Time for me to go home. Party poople, spoil sport. No, y'all have fun. I've got stuff to do. You remove yourself from that situation. Somebody has a drug overdose. You weren't there when it happened. But if you stayed there and someone has a drug overdose, you are going to get a negligence charge because you were in the room with people being irresponsible and you proactively did nothing to prevent the loss of their life. You are responsible for the people around you. So you have to make better decisions. And if you improve your decision making skills, then you can hold yourself to a higher level of accountability and hold your network to a higher level of accountability. I'm always seen in a suit. I don't have women that hang around me that look like sluts. Specifically because if I'm in a suit, you have to be dressed professional too. I dress professional, you must dress professional right along with me. So that prevents me from having scantily clad outfits next to me. Throughout, I was 9 years in college, and throughout college, I had 13 women around me, and all of them were in business attire because I was always in business attire. I held myself to a higher standard, and everybody around me, I held them to a higher standard. And as a result, if you don't want to carry yourself to that higher standard, I will not accompany you. You will not accompany me. My non-negotiable expectations are that we will grow together, or I will grow by myself, but I will not fall short with you just so that I can have you. That doesn't work for me. Yes, the only person that can control myself is myself, but you do not want to be in a situation where you're getting locked up because your friend made a bad choice and you was with him when he made that bad choice. You know that a bad choice is about to happen. You need to go home. You don't want to be in a college frat party because it's the thing to do. Then when the police shows up and start arresting all the underage drinkers, you get arrested with them. You don't want to be those protesters that are out there on the street knowing that the ICE is not coming to their house to come and get their kinfolk, and they out there in the street blocking ICE agents when they could have been at their house or at their job, and now they're going to jail, and now they're not able to be home with their family and friends and their kids because they were outside in the street doing something stupid with everybody else that was out there in the street doing something stupid. I'm not saying that they can't protest, but they can do it responsibly where they're not interfering with the agent's ability to get out of the neighborhood faster. Because if you block the road, they stay there longer. They say, hey, good talk. I'll see if I can catch you tomorrow. God bless. I really appreciate you. You stay blessed as well. But common sense is common sense, and that's what I teach you guys on a regular basis. So with that being said, I want to thank you guys for coming to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I will see you guys tomorrow night.